All right, everybody, we're just about to get started. About a minute left. How's everyone doing today? Good? Very nice, yeah. Sorry, I have to kind of come in the costume. If anyone can recognize, it's Aventurine from Honkai Star Rail. The guy is a gambler. He's super, super rich, very lucky, so the exact opposite of me, which is why I'm cosplaying him, hoping to achieve at least 1% of what he could do. So, thank you. Yeah, I know, right? Thank you for coming to my panel. The title is The Ever-Evolving Collegiate Esports Scene. And because I am with St. Edward's University, I'm also shilling for them. They pay for the trip, part of it. I have to cover some of it. And before we even get into it, I just want to say that a lot of this is going to be coming straight from the noggin. I try to do a PowerPoint where I list out all the information I'm actually going to say, and then I realized that there's not enough space. So it's probably going to take me about 2 hours, 3 hours to get through actually everything I want to get through. So for this panel, I wanted to kind of orient it into a more of a discussion format where if you want to ask me any questions, I will take pauses in between the slides where you can ask me any questions, just raise your hand and I'll point at you. Okay, so that's me. Very handsome picture, not touched up at all. That's what I look like in real life. Oh, hold on. Yes. So I am currently the esports director at St. Edward's University, which is in Austin, Texas. It's a very, very cool university. And we're a very small school, about 3,000, 4,000 players. Not players, students. But it is a very tight-knit community. The education value is very good there. I promise this is the last thing I'm going to talk about our university in terms of like shilling. Yeah, you have to live on campus the first 2 years, and then after that, you know, you could go wherever you want. Most of our esports athletes actually do live on campus. We have 2 facilities, which I should have gotten a picture to show, but I forgot. So, yeah, so 2 rules coming in. Like I said before, feel free to interrupt me at any time. That's just the way I like doing panels. And the second one is there's no stupid questions. I mean, something that I know, he might not know, or she might not know. So just ask, and I'll be able to answer your questions. Yeah, so I've broken up the panel into 6 main talking points, and as you can see, it's very bare bone. I really tried to fit everything in here. Trust me, it doesn't look good. It looks way better this way. So kind of a process. I'm going to go through the foundation, the uniqueness, the competition, the scholarship part, which is what everyone hopefully is looking forward to, the career of it, and then the challenges and trends that we are facing as Collegiate. So the first ever varsity program, and I'm going to keep this short, everybody hates foundation, or it's a waste of time in my opinion as well. But you just got to remember that the first varsity program is Robert Morris University. They came out with their varsity program in 2014, and they were the first university to offer scholarships to its student athletes. I believe back then was $2,000 per person. That really set the precedent and kept the ball rolling before Robert Morris. Most, if not all, are clubs on campus, and the ones that aren't clubs just doesn't have a club. I was from Stony Brook University in New York. I don't know if anyone has heard of that university. I was actually the eSports Association president for 3.5 years, and I helped them develop their eSports program. So that's one of the first things I did. I have been in the eSports industry. I've been working for 3.5 years now, and I have been 3.5 years at Stony Brook. So total of 7 years, not too bad, right? Not too shabby. So a lot of the grassroots clubs currently, they are spending money out of their pocket, or they're leveraging the student government to kind of support themselves that way. This is a very bad model. It doesn't really, you know what, I'm gonna keep the hat off, guys. Sorry, it keeps falling off. There is a lot of things that the students can do that they're not able to do. For example, travel to different tournaments. A lot of these clubs are good. I actually ran into the Drexel president, Zumi, here on the way to the panel. Hopefully she shows up as well. Yeah, they are also a club sport, but they're top 32 in almost every game that they participate. So, I mean, I know they have really, really good CS team, Rocket League team, Val team, League team. What's up? Yeah.
When you say grassroots, what do you specifically mean by that? What exactly is a grassroots club?
So a grassroots club is like something that a couple of students just come together, they're very passionate about one thing, and then they build something out of it. So, for example, the eSports Association at Stony Brook started with 3 students, and then I joined in afterwards. So now it's dissipated because we have an official program. But before I left, there was about 400 students. We have a 40,000 student campus, so it's not actually that much, but there was a lot of interest in it. We do our bi-weekly meetings, about 50 to 60 people show up. It is very cool. We do a lot of competition, so that's what I mean by grassroots, is like you have really just passion. And I'm gonna mention this now, but you're gonna hear it a lot in the panel as well. Esports is something that is built on passion, and there's a lot of abuse with that, which I'll talk about later on. And then explosive growth, of course, where we really seen the growth first with the popularity of Twitch kind of booming into the scene. I believe they started in like 2012, and by 2015, there are about 30 million active users on the platform. And then Fortnite, of course, you've heard about that game before. When it first came out in 2017, it was a huge hit. And the first world tournament prize, I think it was $3 million or something. Yes, I unfortunately did not attend that in person, but it would have been cool. So that really brought esports towards the mainstream attention. And of course, the quarantine, for better or for worse, actually brought up esports at a collegiate level as a question to, hey, we can't really play basketball, we can't really play soccer. What do we do? How do we spend our athletic budget? And esports is very cheap. A lot of esports programs currently on campus can achieve about 203% ROI, which means you put in $100,000, you're getting about $3 million out of it, or $300,000 out of it, sorry. So it's a lot of money that can be made, and that is where and why a lot of private and public colleges are kind of going into esports. Is such an easy way to get your students to retain, recruit, and also it's a lot of money involved. So why is collegiate esports unique? Well, each collegiate esports program or club has a different focus, right? Education is a big part of it. Competition is a big part of it. Student engagement is a big part of it. Media outreach and recruitment is also another big part of it. So all of these aspects, depending on what the university and its, I'm gonna do this, and its kind of faculty and board of trustees, what they want to do with the esports program, that's where it's gonna focus on. So at St. Edward's, for example, we are focusing on recruitment the most. So technically this is a recruitment panel. So if you're interested, hit me up after the panel. And then I know back at Ohio Northern, we focus more on competition. Sorry, that's my first job out of college. I worked at Ohio Northern University as their assistant director. We focused a lot on competition there. We had 9 teams, about 125 active competitors on the team. So that was very, very hectic to handle. And at Stony Brook, my undergrad, we focused a lot on education and student engagement. Because it's such a large university, there's things that the students want to do, and esports, video games, is very popular. Esports is also able to engage outside of what traditional colleges can engage in. So for example, you set up a Switch with a 34-inch TV, and you can get 10 students there all day, every day, playing Smash, Mario Kart, whatever. It's a very, very easy way of engaging students on campus. And that's what makes collegiate esports unique, is that it costs very, very little for things to happen. You don't need a basketball court. You don't need a turf, which is like $2 million. You just need a Nintendo Switch, which is $349. You guys saw the Switch too? I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, you just need a Switch and a TV, and that's at most gonna cost you $1,000. And then that's it. You can get your students on campus, do whatever you want with them. They're gonna be there on campus at whatever venue you want them to be. So engagement is a big part of why esports is very unique in collegiate level. And of course, the community. You're building a community not only with your local high schools, with your local middle schools even, now that the structure is kind of built. You have other colleges you could reach out to. You have local conferences you participate in. You have the bigger collegiate conferences and then third-party conferences. You have now are accumulating alumni, an alumni base, which, like I said before, esports is built off of passion, which means that a lot of these players that graduated from your program, if they make it big, in whatever field they do, very, very likely to come back and attend alumni events. And that's where the money is going to come from, right? We're at the time of the year when I'm reaching out to parents and saying, hey, you're probably paying $5K, $6K in taxes, why not do a tax write-off and donate to the program? And I'll show you exactly what I'm doing, right? This panel is what I'm doing. I'm traveling to Harrisburg for their HuFest, if you're familiar with that. So those are the things that I'm spending my budget on, and I'm making documentaries out of it. I'm providing student engagement and experience for our student athletes. And so those are the things that you can build a community around. It's really the showcase. Yeah?
Hi, Patrick Cheney. I'm actually from Harrisburg University.
Cool. Yeah, no, you definitely saw me there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know the PA Cup is coming up in April. They just announced that.
Yeah.
Are you excited at all?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. So our players, I gotta talk about our players. They're really good. We are, I would say, top 32 in the nation, top 16 on some good days. Can't be at the top, Maryville, they're too good, but we're still up there. But what I'm proud of is our GPA average. We keep a very high academic standard. You're required to go to class. I actually get an email from the professors if my students miss class, and I have to put them in study hall hours. It's a whole big spiel, but that's something I'm proud of. But yeah, I'm very excited for that PA Cup. So yeah, let's move on to the next slide. So what are the main collegiate esports games? Rocket League is the biggest, and all of the data that I reference is going to be from this collegiate esports trends. I'm just gonna quickly do a quick shout out to Chris, both Chris's, Chris and Chris with a K. This is a light version. The full version is about $250, but it includes a 300-page trend documentary, very, very detailed. If you're interested in going into collegiate esports trends, just type it in Google. It'll be the first thing that comes up. It's from the folks at Esports Foundry. They're super cool. They actually hosted the esports awards, the Scholastic esports awards, back 2-3 weeks ago. I attended that as well. It was a very beautiful event. So Rocket League, League of Legends, Valorant, Overwatch, Super Smash Bros. These are kind of the main titles that almost, if you go across all the esports programs across the nation, that's going to be at least one of these 5 games will have be included in those. And then, your Call of Duty, Fortnite, Rainbow Six, those are kind of the next set of games where they're not as popular, but they're still a solid player base and a solid collegiate structure. Maybe not Rainbow Six. I heard they're coming back this year, actually. But those are the games that still have a player base. The students are passionate about it, and they're therefore is a team. Yeah.
Rocket League's a pretty old game at this point. What do you think is keeping Rocket League at the #1 spot of popularity? Is it the passion that goes into the esport itself? Is it the players? What, in your opinion, what is keeping Rocket League at the top there?
There's a myriad of things. I think in my opinion, the biggest part is that it is a very short game. So every match, you queue 2s and 3s, takes maybe about 5 minutes. And if you go to overtime, it's gonna be more. But there is that you can pick the game up very easily. Everybody can do it. The skill ceiling is very high, and a lot of competitors in the collegiate scene, they want something to be competitive, right? So Rocket League kind of satisfies that niche. It's a very quick game, so you have 30 minutes in between class. You could pick up your controller, play 2 games, 3 games, and then just go back to class. So I think those are the biggest points in my opinion. And then it's also the ease of watch. I believe anyone and everyone in the world can look at a Rocket League stream and be like, oh, well, it's two cars pushing a giant soccer ball into each other's goals, right? It's very, very simple. The idea is very simple, but the execution and the skill mechanics that you can put into the game, it shows very easily. And when you watch a good player play, it's very enjoyable. And I think that's also part of the reason why. And it's also a 3-player team, so it's easier to recruit for, and yeah, getting 3 people instead of 5.
Like league, where it's like when you're looking at it, when you're initially looking at it, you're going, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, League of Legends is a very complicated game.
It's a lot easier to see.
So those are Rocket League. That's why I think Rocket League is the most popular. And then there's a lot of. This is one of the drawbacks, I guess, with collegiate esports. There is no one governing entity. So we have the official leagues, which is like Collegiate League of Legends, Collegiate Valorant. Those are hosted by the official game company. So Riot Games hosts Collegiate League of Legends, Collegiate Valorant, and then Epic hosts Collegiate Rocket League, and then Overwatch, Collegiate Championship, and then CCL is actually Collegiate Call of Duty League and also Collegiate Chess League, which is slightly different. But Collegiate Call of Duty League is an official league, but Collegiate Chess League is, I believe, playflyxchess.com. So it's not actually, like, there is no, anyone know what the chess federation thing is called? I forgot what the name is. Yeah, it's a chess federation. So they're not actually involved with collegiate. And then you have your third parties, which is like NACE, Playfly, NECC, ECAC, etc. Those are very popular. A lot of them have I guess, cash prizes, they have trophies, and so do official leagues. But these are a little bit more laid back. They have more divisions in them. So let's say your players are not the best. They're around Diamond, Immortal, and Valorant. They're not Radiant players. You might not be able to make it to the top of the NECC leagues, but they do offer multiple leagues based off of your rank, which is why a lot of these are very popular, because you have very passionate gold, silver players. I don't really care about their rank. I want them to play. I want them to be competitive. I want them to make memories on campus and have lifelong friendships. And that's kind of what inspired me as well. So yeah, participating in an NECC league where, it's other golds and plat players, I'm very actually happy about the fact that things like that exist, where you have a target audience and not everybody is just top 1%, top 0.1%. And then you have your local and regional leagues, which are normally hosted by either the state or some state entity. So for example, GLEC, which stands for Great Lakes Esports Conference, they host within the Central Ohio and Eastern Ohio region. A lot of Ohio schools are in that. And then TexF, which is Texas Scholastic Esports Federation, is a high school league based in Texas where it is hosted by a teachers union. So teachers see that video games are impacting the high school kids a lot. They form a conference and students playing it. So these are kind of your local and regional tournaments where you see a lot of people who are just interested in esports coming out and playing. So this is kind of where everybody should be more interested, the scholarships, right? I'm gonna break it down. My programs, I'm not gonna use the exact number, it's gonna be a percentage scale, but I will break down kind of the revenue, where the scholarship is at. So the money depends on which department your esports program fall under. So it could be under athletics, it could be under student affair or involvement or whatever they coin it at your university. It could be under IT, or it could be any other department. Wherever there is money, that's where esports, personally in my opinion, should be. So we are under athletics, and I can tell you that we have a recruiting budget of $100,000, which may or may not be true. And then different universities have different ways of handing out their scholarship. Some universities give $1,000, $2,000 for every single player, and they don't make any exceptions. And other departments, other athletics or student affairs, you can have $100,000 for one student and then just say, screw everyone else. So it really depends on which university you go to. If you're interested in getting a scholarship, make sure you ask how the scholarship is given out. That's going to be something that is on your interest. Also, there's a big impact on academics. So nowadays, it's no longer that you're just good at video games. You have to be good at academics as well. So for example, at St. Edward's University, if you come here with a 3.2 GPA, and let's say you're a Radiant player, you might be offered $10,000 from eSports and $10,000 from the university itself for 3.2. But if you come here with a 4.0 and you're a Radiant player, now you're looking at $35,000 in merit scholarships. And in addition to that, I'm gonna give you $10,000 or even more because I value more as a student because you're good at academics. It looks good for the program, it looks good for the university. So if you're good at school, which I hope you are, I wish the best for everyone in academics, but do not neglect school. Your GPA actually has an impact on how much money you can get. And program funding. So there's a lot of things that go into this section. I just listed kind of the main things that is going to be costing my program. So my salary and fringe, so benefits, traveling here, traveling to tournaments. I host tournaments, which the dues set up. I'm in NECC, and they have, I think, $1,800 a year, and you're able to participate in any amount of games that they offer. So that is a fee as well. You have the setup and maintenance costs, your facility management, maintenance, those all cost a lot of money. And I personally have my PC rotations on 4 years. So every 4 years we get updated PC so that, 4 years ago it was what, like a 2080 or 1080? I mean, they still stand up in a lot of these games, but if you're trying to play, let's say Valorant at 240 FPS, which is kind of normal these days. I'm not really sure if actually 1080 still holds up. If anyone knows, please let me know. But you probably have to play at minimum settings to reach 240 FPS. Some students are very picky, but I also just think that with the updated technology, there's less bugs, there's less things that can blue screen you. So that as well. Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to go back to the skills versus academics.
Sure.
I was just curious as to why academics play such a big contributing factor in your decisions. Just because, I mean, I'm on the same page. Like academics are important. It's really important for students to be well-rounded.
Yeah.
But if you compare it to say traditional sports, right, that might not be as big a factor. You might just want to meet a bare minimum GPA requirement rather than like aiming for those 4.0 students, as long as they're good basketball players or football players, whatever it is.
Yeah, so to repeat the question, so why is academics weighed so heavily in my esports program and a lot of esports programs across the nation compared to traditional sports where maintaining a minimum GPA and just being good at the sport is just good enough. So there's two ways to answer this. I mean, the first way is that the university itself a lot of university has been realizing that lower GPA doesn't look good for the school. It looks bad, right? Let's say you're a D1 football team and you're the best in the league. I mean, yeah, maybe doesn't matter as much your GPA, but all the other medium-sized programs or the programs where you're not at the top of the your conference. What is attracting players to those universities, right? So those universities are offering bigger scholarships for higher academic players because that is just the way that it gives them an edge over the other universities where you have the biggest university, for example, Maryville. You can get in by being a professional player, of course, but if you have a 4.0 GPA and you're a diamond player, you're not getting into Maryville. So how do other schools compete? That's the way. And the second way to answer this is, so academics it depends on the director of the program. So me personally, I really think that esports is a tool to help you build skills inside of college. And then once you transition out of the college scene, the skills that you build within the program is going to be what helps you in your field. So in my opinion, I believe that the GPA is a good sign to whether a student is going to be committed, whether a student is going to be good on time management, whether a student is going to be responsible for their actions. If you have a good GPA, chances are you're a good student and you're a good person in general. So that's one of the things that you also kind of have to weigh as well. Especially at smaller universities, you want students that are good. You don't really want any bad apples because they stand out a lot more. So yeah, back to the program funding. I spent a lot of money on jerseys as well as student workers. I have 2 facilities, which means that I have to spend money for students to be on campus and watch the rooms when I'm not there. So I can't be there 24/7. So that's also a cost. And there is federal money with the federal work study program. So actually, you don't need to spend department budget, but if a student isn't qualified for federal work study and they still want to work on campus, that's a way that you could do it. So this is kind of just an information. So about 50 to 55K is where the median salary of a director is. The total estimated scholarship handed out, which is the 2023 to 2024 academic year, is about 46 million. And historically, we have about $130 million spent on esports facilities. And of course, year after year, there's more. And there's about $1 billion in revenue generated by students enrolling in only esports programs. This is a huge amount of dollars. And universities are catching on, and they know that there's money involved in this, and they know that recruiting is easy with esports. So that's why kind of collegiate esports is taking off at such a big rate.
Quick question. Not that it's not like a matter too much, but would you say that the funding for esports programs these days is getting to or on par with that of something like a football team, a soccer team?
I'm gonna put a hat on for this question. Okay, so definitely no. And the question is the esports funding up to the other sports fundings like football and basketball? The answer is no. And it's just because this is one of the problems that esports faces is the stigma. And the generational gap between the board of trustees who are normally 30, 40, 50 years old versus the younger generation, like me, for example. I went to undergrad in 2017, so I'm kind of the newer generation of people who graduated college and found a career in esports, which I'm very grateful for. It's my passion, right? So I'm very happy to be here. But unfortunately, no, there's still a lot of money involved because you have, for example, college football. It's super, super popular. There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of gambling involved as well. So the money there is huge. The viewership is huge. Now, if you're talking about professional esports, for example, League of Legends, massive game, massive viewership, but it doesn't really translate into the collegiate level. And the reason for that is because there's no real pipeline between collegiate level to pro or amateur, right? I don't know if anyone were here last night at Jordan's panel. It's very cool person. He mentioned that there is a certain way for you to step from collegiate to professional, but there's only really certain examples, numerous, but you can pretty much count on one hand per game. So for example, Niles in the Legends, I don't know if anyone has heard that name before, he was able to go professional. He played in the LCS for one split, I think, and then went back. I think now he's a coach somewhere. But yeah, so you really have to be the best of the best in the collegiate to be able to even qualify for either scouting grounds or amateur professional team, and making it into the professional league. It's a very hard task, especially when you have to balance school. So you have to, if you wanted to go pro from collegiate, you kind of have to just abandon whatever years you have in the program. And, when you come back, you might not get that scholarship back, or the situation of the program has changed. So it's not recommended for you to go pro unless you know for a fact that you're top 50, top 20 in solo queue. You have connections with professional organizations. That's a different story. But for most collegiate esports athletes, you really don't want to go that route. You want to get your degree, and you want to get a good paying job after college. To give you a personal anecdote, my League of Legends team, I coached the Stony Brook League of Legends team back in 2019. I think we were top 4 in the East. Missed playoffs by 1 game. Would have won to LA. That would have been cool. But so the jungler now works at LinkedIn. He's a senior developer, $300K a year. All right. The top laner, he went to Two Sigma, which is a AI learning company. started off college $350,000 a year. Now he's making like $500-600. So these are the things that you want to consider. Honestly, I should have been that route. Like, you see the median salary here, but you see the difference between, you know, working, going pro, right? You're playing video games, but if you get your degree, for example, in comp sci or in medicine or any other, I guess it wouldn't be lucrative now. The job market sucks, but traditionally lucrative markets, you're getting paid a lot more, and you have the skills that you use from esports, and you get bragging rights. You're good at video games. Yeah.
Do you think within the next coming years that the budgeting for esports teams in the college level will reach that of something like a football team because of the increasing popularity?
Do I think it will reach the funding level of traditional sports programs? The answer is no. I don't think it's anywhere within the next couple of years. I think that this is something that takes about a generation. So when people like me starts getting on the AD position or the board of trustees position, that's when things are gonna start to change. We have the really, really cool people, for example, the president at Robert Morris University who led this initiative, who are really game changers, but that won't happen to the majority of universities until that generation gets kind of replaced and then the next generation comes in. So unfortunately, I'm a pessimistic person, so I'm gonna answer no for that. If you wanna be optimistic, the chances are if you sell each individual program, if you sell your money, if you sell your retention rates, your recruitment, your ROI, if you bring those stats up and you're able to get a meeting with, let's say, the AD or board of trustees and you get your 10 minutes in front of them, maybe that can change, right? That's something that you have to put an effort in on your own. And I did, and I got shut down. So maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but okay. Any questions on the scholarship parts? I know a lot of people usually, yeah?
2 questions.
Sure.
Are athletes participating in university NIL funds?
Are are esports athletes participating in NIL funds? NIL is not regulated by esports programs at all. So, for example, I'm talking to this professional Rocket League player who might come to our university next year. I can't say the name, unfortunately, but his Twitter is bigger than our athletics department's Twitter. So anything that he posts gets hundreds of thousands of views, which, you know, that image and likeness, unfortunately for him, is not managed by the athletics department because we're not under NCAA. And that's one of the benefits and unfortunate situations as well, because NCAA forces you to give scholarships to your students, to your student athletes. So for example, if you're an NCAA football school, you have a set amount of scholarship that you have to give out to students every year, versus if you're esports under athletics and your school's NCAA, they don't have to give you any money to give out to scholarships because you're not an NCAA program. So you can generate wealth on your own as a player, and using your image and likeness to whatever you want. So NIL stands for name, image, and likeness for those who might not be familiar. Yes, the second question?
Second question, where are universities primarily recruiting? What's recruitment look like? What do you do to recruit?
That's a great question. So recruiting is the question. Where does recruiting happen for universities? They happen online. Most of it happens online. So a lot of university uses this tool called SPIN, which stands for Stay Plugged In. That is a really, really good website. There's a paid service, there's a free service as well. But you can essentially, high school students register themselves in that website. Universities create a profile and they can search each other, which is a really nice function. You can list the games that you participate in. You can list the scholarship amount that you give. I love this hat. You can search, that's a paid function, but you could search the people that are in there. You could filter by GPA, filter by state, filter by distance. They're built in, the tool is built in really nice. There are other tools like that as well. I believe League OS, or League GG, I think it's League OS. They're starting their own recruiting tool where they're using their current player base. League OS is the system that a lot of the third-party, for example, I think NECC plays on League OS system. So they have registered user base already where they're participating. You'll be able to create an established program list and high school list. So they're trying to do something with that, with the same pricing model as Spin, but except for the difference is that League OS already has an established base where Spin, you have to register on your own. So that's kind of the difference between them, and I have to kind of budget to see whether or not I can fit that in or which one's better. But usually online is the way to go. I personally host local tournaments for high schools. Every event we get about 20, 30 high school kids show up, either for Smash or Rocket League. Those are the easiest games to recruit, which is, I guess, why they're popular. And yeah, I've successfully gotten 1 or 2 recruits from those events. They're committed, they have their deposits. So I would say that that's also a major thing that you want to do, especially creating a good communication and a good partnership between you and your local high schools. That's something going to be really important as well as a director. So online and offline. You can also go to, I'm going to go back again. For example, TaxF is a high school conference. Those are hosted in person. The finals are hosted in person, so you can actually travel to those events and recruit in person. That's more traditional sports-like. Any other questions? Good? All right, I will be moving on to the next panel. So careers. There's a lot of careers that comes out of collegiate esports. Like, for example, my position, right? That's an obvious one. But there are some that you might not expect. So people that things that you don't think about, right? For example, a replay operator under organizers. What is a replay operator? It's someone that spectates a game and creates the best viewing experience for you. So when you watch a Rocket League match, which I think Rocket League actually operates on AutoCam, so it might not be the best example. But if you watch a League of Legends stream, there is someone either with a mouse or with a controller in the back who's actually panning the camera. So they're not following an auto system. Someone's watching the map, someone's watching exactly what players are purchasing, or how much gold is there, or if 2 champions are close and they start seeing the health bars start getting lower, they pan towards that champion. So that is something that you don't think about, and it's a real job over at Riot Games. They get paid to do exactly that. They get paid to pan their cameras. So that's something that's very non-traditional that you can sort of, if you're really good at it, you can make a living out of it. So I kind of broke it into 4 different sections. So content, strategist, organizer, and entrepreneur. These are kind of the jobs that branch out. And this was shown last night as well. There's a very large amount of esports occupations that you can have. But to keep it simple, content, right? Your broadcasters, the people who do streams, the people who do transitions and things like that. There's like a stream director, for example, if you have your replay system where you have 2 setups, both specters in the game, and you have a button that can switch between the 2 computers to show like the current game or the replay system. You have your shoutcasters. I was a shoutcaster myself back in college. It's really fun. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, you can talk crap about the players. I'm gonna keep it PG in here. You can talk crap about the players. You could be a very biased shoutcaster because you're shoutcasting for your own university. And you can create a lot of narratives there. If you're a good shoutcaster, you can actually create rivalries by clipping your shoutcasting and sending over on Twitter over to your other opponents and being like, hey, we just 1v4, what are you doing? So yeah, that shoutcasters, obviously a real role and not just esports, traditional sports as well. You have social media management, which is super, super, super important. People don't realize how important social media is because kids nowadays, they're very often on Twitter. If they're good at their video game, they have a Twitter. And if your program has a positive social media image, not only are you appealing to those kids, a lot of parents will also do their research on the school. And if they say, hey, I see St. Edward's eSports on X, what are they doing? They have a documentary out right now. They're posting their I don't know, jersey pictures, just things like that, where if you want to see positive things on social media, it's going to help drive students, especially parents who are looking for those good qualities to your university. And then of course, video editing, journalists who write, papers on the current collegiate landscape, and then software developers. There's possibilities for, game development in that aspect. So that's part of that. Strategists, hand up in the back.
Can you describe more of what these are looking for
For social, if I get your question correctly, it's what programs are looking for in a social media manager. Is that your question?
No, I mean for positive social media.
Positive social media image. Okay, so what people want to see in what I mean by positive social media image is that you want to, when people scroll through your Twitter, you want them to see a positive side of your university. So let's say you made a mistake, right? Let's say someone said a bad word on stream. How do you take responsibility? Well, people are gonna know more that you said a bad thing on stream than people are gonna know your apology. So part of your social media presence is gonna be putting out a graphic that says, this player said this, we acknowledge that he did, we apologize for this mistake, here's how we're handling it, here's how we're taking responsibility. So positive social media image is where you are showcasing a positive side of your university by either showing that you're accountable for your actions, by showing that you're engaging with your local community, or by showing that you have a lot of cool stuff that's going on. There's a lot of, production value that goes into social media as well. If you have a great social media presence, your outreach is going to be to more people, and a positive image. For example, if you put out a graphic saying our program has a 3.4 GPA for our esports athletes, that's a great positive image, right? People will look for that. Good students look for that, and other university, when looking at it, they're like, okay, well, now we have to compete against this. They have an edge over us. So that not only elevates you, but it also puts pressure on the other programs to compete with you. Strategists, very simple. Coaches, team managers, analysts, these are self-explanatory. You need someone who's looking over your team and making sure that they're not in trouble. And a lot of times in an esports program, that's either the director or whoever the coach is. And analysts just does only game reviews. Scouters, they are recruiters for universities, and then career managers, player agents. So that's kind of a more professional side. For example, players have agents that connect them with their professional, organizations. I don't know why I'm blanking on that word, but that's what a player agent does. And a career manager kind of does the same thing, except they steer your career towards whatever you want your career to be. Organizers, event organizers, so MAGFest is an event, that's an event organizer. Event staff, there are a lot of roles. For example, audio technicians, very, very important role. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this, this wouldn't work without them. So that's a very important role. General managers, which is kind of your, the people who broadcast these things. So how do we outreach? How do we make the event successful? What's going to attract people to our event? That's what the general manager is responsible for. You have your stream organizers. So let's say I see two people here coming from the CS2 tournament. What's up? So that tournament, there's got to be a streamer, right? Someone's got to be organizing that stream. Like I said before, replay operator, and just live cameraman as well. When I talk about production value, you see cameramen like carry their cameras around. You have a guy following them with the wire. That's someone that is very, very needed if you want to run a successful and high production value event. And that's something that you can get experience in collegiate esports. And the last one, entrepreneur, you need someone working on corporate sponsorships, marketing. You need someone working on your general business. So for example, I currently manage all the budget at our university, so I kind of take that as well. And esports directors, they have a very big shoe to fill. There's a lot of hats that we put on. And then providers and suppliers, and this one I want to kind of concentrate on a little bit. So providers and suppliers are people like your game centers, your PC cafes, or for example, if you wanted to host a retro gaming tournament, you need, where are you getting your pinball machines and your Pac-Man machines, right? So those are the providers and the suppliers, and those often are very underlooked because you don't think about these things when you're doing an event, right? I'm hosting a 64-player Super Smash Bros. Event. Where am I getting the switches, right? The players can bring their own switch, but I don't want to be responsible if a switch gets lost or if a game gets lost. I don't want to be responsible for that. So what I do is I contract a local game PC company, or I guess in this case they're an event organizer, and they provide the switches. They provide the manpower, they help us set up, I pay them amount of money, they make sure that nothing gets lost. So that's part of where money can come from. And if you wanted to create a career out of esports and be related to these things, being a provider or a supplier can be your way in. And there's a lot of ways to do that, right? You can, for example, this event, where did the public PCs come from? I mean, they have a sponsor out there. So think about that, right? And here's just a chart. I'm gonna leave this up here for a while I take any questions. I mean, if you search esports related professions on Google, it will be one of the first images that will pop up. But any questions from the audience about this chart? Go ahead.
So this chart, great. My question's not related to that.
Sure, that's fine.
Getting a job is kind of tough.
Yeah.
How do you, sorry, when you apply for jobs, how do you address the stigma for when college students are applying for these jobs to include esports as part of their extracurriculars?
Could you repeat the question? I feel like there was like two questions I would ask, and
How do you deal with the stigma from employers when you include esports as one of your extracurriculars?
right. Okay, I see. So there is certainly a stigma. The question was, how do you deal with the stigma, or how do you, I guess, spin it in a narrative where it won't be as quote unquote impactful negatively when you put it on resume and you're applying to jobs and potential employers are looking at it. So you have to spin your resume in a way where you're not saying I'm playing video games, right? You want to say that you're the team captain of your League of Legends team that placed top 16 in the nation. That's something that the employers look for, is that you have, so when you explain these things in an interview, I mean, if you get to an interview, it will be easier to explain, but the first thing is that what they're looking for is looking for achievements. They're looking for something that makes you, looking for leadership, right? They're looking for skills. So being a team captain and going top 16 in the nation, that's a skill, right? That's not something to be ashamed of. That's something you should be proud of. Also, if you worked on, for example, shoutcasting, or if you worked on streaming, or if you worked on organizing events, those are very simple ways of putting that on your resume. Being, let's say you hosted an event with 160 people attending. That's already specific numbers that you can tailor whatever you're applying for. That those numbers look really good for you. You can say, I collaborated with this department, I invited this sponsor onto the university, and just things like that, where you have, whatever job you're applying to, as long as you tailor some of the things that you did towards what they want to see. Let's say you're applying to a computer science job. It's a very common area where you would apply to. So I would, what game do you play? Come up with a specific scenario, because it's a little bit harder to like.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've played a lot of Rocket League.
Okay.
For example. Maybe I am applying for an office job with my state government, and
Okay.
I need clear leadership examples.
Yeah. So I'm going to make up a situation. Let's say you're not even the team captain. You're a player on the team, right? What you can do is you could say that you are an athlete for 4 years, right? That shows commitment. You're a scholarship athlete, which means you get paid. You travel to this event, and this event, and you placed this on whatever tournament that you placed in. that might not specifically be the skills that they're looking for, but it does show that you are working with a team and you're able to achieve things while working with a team under pressure. Because when you travel to tournaments, right, it's a very high intensive situation. So just, you have to think about it in a way where you have to tailor your experience towards the employer. It's a very general answer, but that's kind of really the way to do it. Question?
Yes. I'm actually working with an internship with a podcast right now that is part of my school's program.
Okay, cool.
I was wondering if it would be okay if I took a couple of voice recordings from what was here and maybe quoted a few of them and wanted to put them in the first put them in the first podcast I wanted to make. Like, would that be all right?
Yeah, no, that would be perfectly fine with me. Make sure you show me in the cosplay as well. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
It won't be too long of a segment. No more than 7 minutes. I'm going to parse as much as I can out of it.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I totally understand. A lot of these things, when I say a lot of things, and when you do events, when you record things, blabbling is actually really good because in post you could just kind of form a narrative on whatever you want. You just cut it out and put it into segments. So I totally understand. Yeah, that's cool with me. Any other questions about this chart?
About the chart. What would be the best way for somebody who is coming out of the esports field to find direction in a job that will give them a sense of fulfillment? Like, I'm looking at the broadcast corner of this now.
Okay.
And I am seeing a good number of jobs that I feel comfortable with. I feel like I would really enjoy these jobs. How would I go about finding them? Like,
How would you go about finding these jobs that are listed on the, okay.
How would I tailor my resume or my job search specifically for some of these jobs, some of these positions?
Right. So, I mean, the tailoring is specific to your experience, of course, but you have to look at the third-party, I guess, organizers or people who actually organize these events. That's going to be the people who are looking for either experience or internship is a great way to do it. If you have an internship with a current company that you applied for, and they have things like broadcasting, that's a great way to be in. And they often look for people who are already having some experience doing things, for example, in esports. So about how to find these, personally, this has been successful recommendation for a lot of people. It's LinkedIn tech. You connect to people on LinkedIn and you send your resume personally through messaging. I know this sounds like, you're causing a lot of trouble for other people, but I mean, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do to find a job, right? You don't wanna be homeless, you don't wanna make no money. So a trick that have worked for a lot of people is just networking, like actually networking, reaching out to professionals in the field, seeing if there are any opportunities in the field that you could take advantage of. If not, can you lead me to the right place? A lot of times when you look at applicants on applicant portals, I'm one of the people that look at those, is that there are hundreds of applicants, and I have to use AI. I don't have enough time in my day to filter through everything. So now, how do you stand out as a candidate? Well, you either do the AI way as well, which means that you scan your AI and see where your resume will place, or you reach out more personalized, more individually to industry professionals and just see if you have a chance to connect with them, if you have a chance to talk to them. If you go to, for example, the Scholastic Awards dinner, which was 3 weeks ago, and you go to the Mixer, you could talk to individuals that way. And do your elevator pitch in the esports arena. So I would say that if you really wanted to pursue kind of a job in esports, you kind of have to work the people instead of working the system.
So another question.
Yeah.
About compiling a portfolio. Like, how would you present in? Because I've done a couple of shoutcasting opportunities at my school. And I wanted to go back and compile a number of them into a portfolio.
Yeah.
And how would you go about presenting that in a way that makes you stand out as a candidate for a position?
Through a website, yeah. There's simple websites out there like Squarespace, not sponsored. Hopefully I will be in the future. You should create a website where it outlines your accomplishments, where it outlines, you could have links on the websites or like video embeds on highlight reels that you've done. I think that is a great way when you attach that to your resume. They click on the link. If it's presentable, if it's simple, if it's readable, I think that will put you kind of an edge up on other people who don't have a website, where nowadays resumes, you really want it to be one page, because if you list too much, people are not going to read it anyway. At least I'm not reading it past the first page, I'm going to be completely honest. So yeah, if you can fit a link on there and it's digital and someone clicks on it and it's simple to read, it's fast, you get most of the information off of like a few seconds, I'll say that will help you a lot.
Thank you very much.
And then, this is actually my longest slide, and we are 5 minutes left. So I'm gonna speed run, okay? What are the emerging challenges and trends? There's a lot of challenges. I'm gonna be completely honest, the stigma of video games is something that is still a problem in collegiate esports. A lot of times, what you really want to do is if you're applying to a university, you want to bring your parents on campus and talk to the director or onto the call and ask questions, because your parents are going to be the people who have a different perspective than you. They're going to ask different questions about the program than you do. You're looking for how much scholarship, is the program good? Is the food good on campus, right? Those are questions, but your parents might be like, well, what's the living situation like? Or how are the professors? Or are the programs good? The academic programs good? So the funding is a problem, right? We're nowhere near traditional sports. The support behind the university sometimes kind of differ between universities. That's really bad, because it really shows that the school doesn't care. And for a field that runs on passion, if you don't care, it's not good. Academics, if you're lower than a certain GPA, you get kicked out of the program. And a lot of kids who are in college, who are really good at video games, they practice a lot outside of their practice as well, like set schedule times, and that they fall behind in GPA. That's not good, because you're going to get kicked out of the program and you're going to lose your scholarship, because no matter which department, if you're not in the school, you're not going to be able to get that scholarship. And long-term viability, I really wanted to elaborate on this point, but I don't think we have enough time. But the long-term viability of esports currently is not set up for success. And what I mean by that is how I define long-term viability is that how can you develop a community of players who still care about the game long after they're gone, right? So this is looking more towards video games in general. Let's say League of Legends, right? Great game, Cap. Great game. Maybe it survives another 5-10 years. What happens to the game alumni of those games where League is now gone, right? So how can we keep them within the community now that their interest is gone within the community? Let's say Epic is running Rocket League into the ground, which honestly they are. But so if Rocket League dies, so what happens, right? What happens to 86% of programs that offer Rocket League, right? So what happens to that? It's not set up for long-term success, because there are problems within the gaming industry in general and esports in general. The money model for professional esports, the paid model, the sponsorship model, that doesn't work. And you've seen it if you kind of read up a little bit. There's a lot of funding going into the esports, but not a lot of funding getting received back by sponsors.
Do you think that eventually, if games get a long enough stay in media and popular culture, like something like Counter-Strike that's been around since '99,
Yeah.
League of Legends has been around since like 2011?
Yeah.
2009?
Yeah.
These games, like, do you see them long-term having a longer lifespan now that we have like the live service model, so that these like foundations can be built behind them? Like, I don't see a lot of like Riot's games falling off anytime soon.
Yeah.
Especially with their popularity overseas. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's, like I said, I don't think it's falling anytime soon, but eventually 5-10 years, these games the entry is going to be harder. So for example, League, once it gets past 300, 400 champions, it's impossible to get into. They have to make a League 2, which I am not looking forward to. But yeah, I mean, I can see some of these shooter games, for example, Counter-Strike, right? They source 2, 3, 4, like you can keep coming up with iterations, kind of like football, I'm blanking, NBA or 2K or FIFA, like you could make iterations off of those. But for a mobile game like Legends or Dota, those games are 100% going to have to kind of reinvent themselves, otherwise the player base is dying. And just quickly go over trends. I know we're coming up on 1 minute left. I want to highlight rivalries in the trends. There are currently a lot of rivalries happening between university, and that's something that if you are part of an esports program, you might want to bring that up to your either whoever's in charge of social media or your program director. You want to create a rivalry out of traditional sports as well. So let's say Ohio State versus Ohio State versus UT, right? That I don't know if it's a rivalry, but if they play each other, you can create a rivalry out of we lost to them in football, but we're beating them in esports. So these are the things that you can kind of look to where you're creating a traditional sports narrative, but in esports, and that's what some of these hired admin and faculty are looking for, is that, we don't really care you placed top 16 in Rocket League. Oh, but you beat our competitor, you beat our longtime rivalry in esports. Wow, that's great, let's throw some money in there. So that's gonna be something that you really want to kind of take advantage of if you have the ability to do so. Of course, community engagement, it's very important. A lot of local tournaments are happening right now with collegiate esports. Academic integration, local college leagues, these are all just things that I've kind of touched upon briefly in the past. But we are at 3 o'clock and I don't want to be kicked out. So any last minute questions? Okay, yeah, thank you guys so much for coming to my panel. I hope you got at least something useful out of it. But yeah, I will be up here for a little bit while longer, so if you have any questions, I can answer off the stage. Rate my cosplay out of 10.